Hello and a very warm welcome to Scale Up India, the Unicorn Spotlight brought to you in collaboration with PayU, one of India's leading payment solution providers, where we bring you first-hand growth insights from some of the finest minds from the fastest growing startups in the ecosystem. Today, we're here to talk about cracking the holy grail of product market fit. Every company, big or small, must crack the product market fit to find success as well as scale, and building a product that solves the real problem that the market has, and knowing that the market for it is large enough is what truly makes a successful product and therefore a startup. In fact, a recent survey by CB Insights revealed that the number one reason for failure, cited by 42% of polled startups, is the lack of a market need for their product. And to discuss the nuances of a successful product market fit strategy, we have with us Shreyans Daga, who is the CTO of MyGate. Thank you so much for joining us, Shreyans. It's really a pleasure speaking with you. I want to dive straight into the topic. The concept of a product market fit is very new in the market. We've been seeing various interpretations of this over time, but what is your definition of a product market fit?
Thanks, Priya. Thanks for calling me for this discussion. I think product market fit is something that it has been defined by multiple people. There have been some definitions around. Paul Graham has written about it, and so have other people. I think we experienced it when we were building the product as new entrepreneurs who started up. I think it's been 5.5 years since we started MyGate, nearing 6. But when we started, we were also, thinking about product market fit and stuff. How do we get there? One thing, obviously, when you start off with is identifying with the need. Sometimes, and that's the starting point. You also goes on the topic of need. If the need is not identified, if you are not solving for a need that people are pained about, I think that's one place to look at to start off with. But in general, if I want to put a statement, what is product market fit? How do you feel it? So it's, if your customers feel that there's something missing, they are unhappy if your product is not there, right? Then you have reached a stage where you can call yourself in a product market fit stage, because you have solved something for them and they have realized value of it. So if you remove it, there is going to be some pain in that. It has been very well formalized by HXC, high expectation consumer, which is something which I think the Superhuman founder, Bora, put out in a blog. And it gives a qualitative or quantitative measure to product market fit. I think people can read on that. But it's super useful for young startups specifically to do that exercise and find out, are they close to it? Anecdotally, I think, just sharing a story from MyGate's initial days. Now, when you're young and you're growing fast, there are points at which you'll fail. So we had these, network outages that used to happen for MyGate devices, which were deployed at multiple gates across the country. In one of the times, one of the internet service providers' network went down. When it went down, we started getting calls from a lot of communities that, hey, your system is down. We are, facing a lot of issue. And when something like that happens, right, and people are worried about, the system not being there, is the first indication that they are feeling the lack of the system, or the system is missing, and their comfort with the system is letting them to speak, yeah, get the system back. I want it, I need it for functioning well. That is an indication that you are reaching that spot where customers want you with them.
Right, interesting perspective out there. Shreyans, if there are any indicators of a product market fit, like any qualitative or quantitative indicators that you can share?
So one of the examples that I shared is around that, but there are more like that. So if your demand generally outstrips the kind of supply you have, again, reflecting back to the earlier days that we had to go on demos for various communities to look at the product. There were more demos than salespeople in the organization who could go and show the product. That was an indication that the demand is outstripping the kind of supply that we have. So if you are in a situation, which is a very good situation, this is a very good problem to have. Because there's more demand and you are not able to supply to it, you are definitely surpassing product market fit in that. Other thing that happens for B2C, where you would not have people going and demoing the product, would be if people are talking about and referring more people are coming through referrals. Right? If there's a lot of word of mouth and referral is happening, then yes, in a sense, you have found the right need, and people are talking about it to people they know, and they are also becoming your users. That's a very good indication. So these are qualitative, and they are also getting reflected. They also get reflected in data. So both ways it works.
Understanding an underserved customer is, a big challenge. And of course, organizations have been dealing with this over the last couple of years as well. So how do you identify underserved customer needs, which will define your value proposition better?
Little bit of history to this answer is that when we were thinking of MyGate, and we were brainstorming amongst us, we were all living in some gated communities. There were two phenomena that were sweeping across India, and one was urbanization. India was becoming more and more urban, and if you look at all developed countries, you'll see rate of Indian urbanization is much lower than what developed countries are, and we are moving towards that. We are becoming developed by the day. So the urbanization was something that was bound to happen. And with that, because of the land and the kind of issues that we have around, the convenience that we want, and also the security, it's more and more gated communities which are coming up, and larger ones to that extent. So we understood that urbanization and gated communities is going to grow all the time. The second was government can do as much in a populous state like India. The resources are always going to be constrained. So the private sector has to fill in a lot of gaps. That's why this gated premise in general became very popular. And the rise of e-commerce was the second bigger factor which was coming in. Now you had all the commerce coming to your doorsteps. So one place you had gated communities which had made its boundaries, keeping people out, while commerce was actually making people come in. So inherently there was a lot of friction because of this. And this friction is not just the entry exit, but in terms of discovery, in terms of, because the way we are living and the way we are consuming is changing. It created a lot of I would say holes in areas where there were no products serving those needs. And that's where we identified that if we start with some smaller use cases which we were experiencing as people living in the gated communities, there are much bigger concerns and much bigger opportunities for us to expand. But importantly, we homed on one particular use case, and we developed around it, identified that this particular area is a concern for people, and then develops a solution around it which people liked, and that's how we scaled from there on. But identifying that need, and what was that need? The need was basically that as a person who has come from outside, right? If I am a migrant to Bangalore, a lot of people today are migrants to different urban centers. When I come into the place, I want a safe and secure location to live. Why? Because I'm going to be away most of the time from the home. And most of my possessions, something that I cherish, my kids, my house, which I've spent almost my lifetime earning on, and my car, everything that I love and care for is at home. When I'm spending so much on getting that home and keep upkeeping it, all of that, I cannot leave the security to something which is very in a way archaic. It's the same, has been always the same. I need something which can give me the assurance that the security is up to the standard that which I want to live. And that's where we came in, that if we can design a solution which can fulfill this need of security with a very minimal kind of cost that we could use, so we can enable the living that they desire for, and that's where MyGate was born. And MyGate actually is my gateway for better living. So we designed it that we solve the security aspect, which was a big gap in the system, and then slowly build on top of it to enable a lot of other aspects on MyGate.
Oh, that's an interesting, insight into the journey as well. I want to understand in terms of, larger issues like MyGate has been handling even payments of things like utility bills, maintenance dues for its users. So what is the kind of roadmap to growth functionality?
As I said, right, when we designed MyGate, we said it's going to be a gateway for better life, and for residents as well as people who are serving those residents or helping those residents. Payments is an integral part of your consumption today, right? And if we are not solving payments, we are not true to saying that MyGate is a gateway for better life. So we intend to make sure that anything around your home, anything which can make your living much better, we can help you in, whether it's payments or related stuff. So we started with maintenance fee, went to utility. Rental payments is also something which is happening on MyGate. And we'll continue to evolve it to even areas where you can pay the helps that you use or other services that you consume. So it's a big use case for us because it's a big problem that customers face.
Tell us about what the revenue implications of these have been on MyGate in terms of driving revenue. Are these now a significant part of the overall pie?
These are very significant from what kind of value we want to offer to our consumers. Still early days, but we expect it to be growing to a very significant part of the revenue.
All right, we'll wait and watch for that and see how that grows going forward. But Shreyans, I want your perspective on this important aspect of identifying a viable product. So once you've identified a viable product for the market, how do you optimize the core product for rapid scale in the market? So what is your perspective on that?
I think if I go back now, this is all coming from my experience. How did we scale, right? And as product and as technology people, we have this constant, we can build 1,000 things, right? But if you have developed a MVP, or I would rather say, the term that people use now is MLP, which is most minimal lovable product. You solve some deep problem or some problem very well for the users that they are satisfied. Yes, this works for me. And when you build that MLP, you want to make sure that you keep that MLP to a level where the growth can happen without any problems. If you expand it too much, right, your effort in making the product to be understood and used is going to be much heavier. So you just make sure that MLP serves some needs very clearly, and then you go for the scale. And the scale can be through multiple things, whether it's the marketing push or whether through its referrals to users. But you need to make sure that the core is well defined, and you don't try to build too many things, because that just dilutes the value or loses focus. So have focus, very clearly define the MLP, build it to a level where people love it, and then just use the other engines to.
Right, that's an interesting perspective out there. But I think one crucial element in the entire product market fit is the customer. So identifying the right customers to talk to, best interpreting customer feedback to improve the product market fit are crucial when it comes to the life cycle of any product that's in the market. So tell us a little bit about how if this feedback can be integrated to make the product market fit much better.
I think one is that it helps if you are a user of the product. You yourself you identify with the pain. That was very true for ourselves. When we started, all three of us were living in gated communities, and we could identify with a lot of things that were happening. The other is that the initial set of customers is very important. As you are building the product, working closely with them, understanding what their pain is. I still remember, Vijay, my other co-founder, he was at Gate, and Abhishek also was playing the role of a security guard, to really understand what kind of pains they go through, what are the challenges that they face. And this kind of insight, when you get upfront, from your own experiences, nothing beats that. So understanding it goes a long way in building the right kind of MLP, which you can scale. Then when you are deploying, having those connects with consumers very clearly, talking to them is important to refine the product even more. Then comes the analytics of it, putting in the right measurement to see whether people are able to use for what you have done. Are you generating the kind of impact? Over top of it, things like, some people use NPS, some people use HXC. I would recommend, if people are looking at product market fit, look at an HXC survey, do a HXC and see how, have you reached that stage where you can say, you are at the product market fit level.
Right. Are there any other strategies for testing how to improve the product market fit according to you?
I think product market fit is also a journey, right? We reach a stage, and then you are building on top of it. So you have to again go on the same product. There are more products that come up which have to go through this journey. So you have to iterate on the same cycle again and again, and keep your eyes open. Talk to your customers. Take in the feedback, and the feedback comes from multiple angles, right? As you grow, you have to listen into what the customers are saying, what kind of complaints you are getting, what is the feedback on the App Store. what your internal sales team is saying, what your operations team is talking about. So all of this has to come, and your internal metrics that you have defined, whether people are able to do the actions they want to do, whether people are able to conduct the kind of business they want to do, all of that is happening or not, all the funnels are working or not. So there are multiple things that will start coming in as your product becomes more and more complex. But I think once you do the cycle for, I think once you are through the cycle, you are able to adapt it for the next one which is coming. But getting the right amount of data and using it well to see whether you are finally able to satisfy the customer or not, and the customer is paying you back for that service, is a very good indicator that you are there. But you can never be still. Product market fit once achieved, it's not that is going to remain. So you have to constantly innovate and improve. That is something that you should be aware of.
Shreyans, are there any warning signs that could tell you that, hey, this is not working out, this product market fit is not happening? So are there any early indicators of those?
Yeah, I think if you, sometimes you are, I think people are very passionate about their ideas, but sometimes you are just ahead of time. Sometimes you may have solved for something that you believe passionately about, but others, it may not impact them that much. So it's important to see what is the customer's reaction. Are they feeling the pain when you withdraw it? I think that's a very good sign of, if you give a kid a toy and you try to take it back, if the kid likes the toy, he will never give you back, right? So it's clearly something that the person is interested in. So if your product is taken away from them, right? And if you are seeing a lot of churn, which is happening and customers are indifferent, that's a clear warning sign that you are in the wrong territory.
Right. And a final question on what kind of advice do you have for startup founders who are just beginning their journey as far as the whole product scenario is concerned? Any words of wisdom?
Not sure whether I qualify for the wisdom part of it. It's been 5.5 years since we are in this space, but it's a lot of belief and hard work which is required to get to a stage. I think having the conviction in yourself is important, but listening to the ground is also very important. So listening to people, but taking the right decision and having the belief. These are the things that should help young people go through this journey.
All right. Thank you so much, Shreyans, for joining us today. It's been a really insightful session, and I'm sure that the startups listening to us right now will have lots of interesting takeaways from the experience that you've shared, and your words of wisdom will really come up handy to all the entrepreneurs out there. Thanks so much for your time, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Please stay tuned for more such insightful conversations on Scale Up India, the Soonicorn Spotlight, a series in collaboration with PayU.